format with virtual and in-person participation by members of the public, staff, and council. This meeting is also being live streamed and may be viewed online at ajax.ca/live. A friendly reminder to all participants, please use their microphone at all times for the benefit of those participating in council chambers and joining remotely. Start with the land acknowledgement. Begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land in which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas, more specifically the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action and acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. Bear with me, I'm going back and forth between a few screens here. Does any member of council have any disclosure of pecuniary interest? I'm going to have to ask that, since I can't see everybody, you push your speak button because I can see the speakers list. Okay, Councillor Dies, you have a pecuniary interest on the...
No, I don't. Sorry. Just logging into.
Okay, Councillor Tyler Morin?
No.
Okay, turn your mic off then. Thank you. So yes, if you have an interest, press a button. If you don't, please don't. If I don't hear any complaints, what I'm going to do today is, since we can't get the resolution signed, I will just go by ward. Start with Ward 1, 2, and 3 as a mover and seconder. If anybody objects, again, let me know and I'll take you off and put somebody on as a mover and seconder. Okay. Moving on to the minutes. I have moved by Councillor Tyler Moore and second by Councillor Crawford that the following minutes of previous council meetings be adopted. The regular meeting of February 20th, 2024 and the closed meeting of February 20th, 2024. Any questions, comments, errors, and omissions on the minutes? Okay, I'm not seeing any names in the speakers list, so I have to assume you're all fine with that. Please vote. And that is carried. Mr. Clerk, were there any questions from members of the public on items on the agenda today?
Mr. Mayor, there were not.
Are there any members of the public here that would like to speak on any items on the agenda today? You'll have to tell me because I can't see them.
It appears that there are not.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to delegations, presentations, and public meetings, we have item 5.1, proclamation. Proclamation request for Save Soil Day, March 21st. We have Kiran Manjunath, Volunteer Conscious Planet, and Archana Janardhan, Volunteer Conscious Planet. Please come ahead for your delegation. You will have 5 minutes and then the proclamation.
Mr. Mayor, Kiran is online and will provide his presentation. Kiran, if you can hit the button in the middle of your, that has a head with lines emanating away from it. And there you are, you have 5 minutes.
You want to hear me now? All right.
Okay, please go ahead. You'll have 5 minutes for your delegation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, the council, and everyone that's supporting this meeting. I'm here to talk about Save Soil, why we save soil. The soil that we have are degrading and degrading very rapidly. And because of the soil degradation, there's a threat to food security across the world. I'm hearing a lot of feedback. Okay, thank you. And I'd also requested some material to be shared on the screen when I'm speaking. There's a PDF if someone can share that. All right, so the 52% of our soils have been degraded on this planet. There's no way to grow food when soils are damaged and are turning into sand. So the action required is to put back organic content into the soil and have at least 3 to 6% of soil, 3 to 6% of organic content in our soils. So that way it ensures we have enough nutrients in our food and we have sufficient food for not just our generation but also for our future generations. So that is what Save Soil is about, and that is why we need to uh, save our soils. The other thing that many people are not aware about is that soils or healthy soils are the biggest terrestrial carbon sinks on this planet. So whenever soil turns into sand, carbon gets released into the atmosphere and we have climate change effects. So rejuvenating our soils is also important to put back carbon into the soil and alleviate the effects of climate change. So those are some things to remember for all of us, and also spread the message and make it widely um, heard. That's one of the reasons why we have Save Soil by Conscious Planet, for which I'm a volunteer. Okay. In terms of progress with Save Soil around the world, many hundreds of I won't say hundreds, over 100 of UN members or UN member countries have said they will work on saving soil. Europe currently has a legislation that they're uh, discussing with the public or getting public feedback on. So that's a lot of progress right there. And many other countries, including India, have also stepped up to save soil. And we're making some rapid progress in terms of leaders across the world acknowledging the importance of soil and committing to make legislations that will bring up the soil organic content to at least 3 to 6%. Okay. That's my presentation today. I wanted to raise awareness about this, and I also wanted to thank everyone, including our mayor and our council members, for proclaiming March 21st to be Save Soil Day. All right, I'll hand it back to the council.
Very good. Thank you for your delegation, Mr. Clerk. Do we have the proclamation?
If you can give me one moment, I will pull it up.
Please get that on the screen.
That'll be great.
Now we have one problem, sir. When I'm on the screen and my microphone is on, I can't see, so I won't be able to read the proclamation. So I'll get the clerk to do that.
All right.
I know I've signed it. Oh, there we go. I can see it. Excellent. Scroll down just a little bit, please, Mr. Clerk. Perfect. So, Proclamation Corporation of the Town of Ajax hereby proclaims March 21st, 2024 as Safe Soil Day, presented on behalf of the Mayor and Ajax Council, signed by myself March 21st, 2024. Thank you for appearing before us today. On to our next item. We have delegation updates on Blue Box transition and expanded green bin. We have Andrew Evans, Director of Waste Management, Regional Municipality of Durham, and Peter Vega, Manager of Waste Management Operations, Regional Municipality of Durham. please come forward for your delegation. You'll have 10 minutes for this.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, and staff. We're here to provide updates on two of our programs to local councillors today. The responsibility and the transition for the Blue Box recycling, and the launch of the expanded Green Bin program within the region. So the Blue Box regulation came into effect in 2016, and it set out the concept of extended producer responsibility for several programs. Currently, electronics, tires, and hazardous waste are a few of them that are in place. And with this, Blue Box recycling is the next to transition within the region. So what this will mean is that the regulation pushes the responsibility for operation of the Blue Box program to producers. Municipalities will no longer have a financial role or operational responsibility to provide collection, processing, or marketing of the materials. Producers still have to meet collection targets, and there is a current phasing over 3 years. The region goes July 1st, so it's very timely that we're giving the update. And the entire province will have transitioned by the end of next year. After that, the program will be fully responsible of the producers. The region still will have a role as we are a producer, given the amount of paper that we produce into the market. However, we'll lose a lot of the responsibility for operating the system. So visually, currently, if you see the circular economy, if you think of it this way, that the local government is providing the services, and we receive funding for approximately 50% of the program from the producers. This change really takes us out of the role, which is a positive benefit for us in both the marketing and cost of the program. And I will say, so just with the cost recovery, it's not exactly 50%. There are still aspects that we will maintain both within the current program and afterwards, largely surrounding some continued communications and education for residents. Additionally, we will lose some of the reporting requirements, which also includes not having management control of the materials. We will lose some of our reporting statistics surrounding our diversion rate. We've been moving away from a diversion rate number for the last several years in preparation for this, and also just a realization that as packaging is changing more quickly, it may not be the best statistic looking at our diversion programs moving forward. So we're moving more to a waste generation per capita. Once transitioned, the producers will be responsible for the direct operation. They will also be responsible for determining what the program looks like. So following the January 1st, they could move to a single stream recycling system, could move to a cart-based system, and we really have no operational oversight of this or insight into this as of this time. We continue, along with the other municipalities in Ontario, to provide input into the program, given the approximately 30 years of experience that we have in operating the service. And we will still be looking to see if the program targets are being met and still have that advocacy role for our residents. The other change to the regulation is that there has been a shift in eligible sources. So what you'll see continued is single-family homes, seasonal residences, and multi-residential buildings. Added post-transition will be schools, nonprofit, retirement, and long-term care homes, and public spaces, as well as some removal of sources, so including businesses, including the BIAs, our waste management facilities, as well as other IC&I sources that may just be on the collection routes that we're currently servicing. We're currently, as the region, going to provide service from July 1st through the end of the transition to the BIAs, and the approach post-January 26th is yet to be determined. Any additional sources, such as multi-residential, that are currently not receiving collection, will be added after January 1st, 2026, and it will be up to the individual service provider and property manager to coordinate that service addition. At the curb to the residents, they really shouldn't see any changes. So the producers have continued to retain the region's 2 contractors, so Miller Waste for Ajax and GFL in some other areas. And the region's contract will be transitioning out at this point, so they'll just be directly responsible to the producers. Collection days, accepted materials, two-stream recycling will still continue for the time being. And the collected materials will still come to the region's material recovery facility and be divided through to the various producer responsible organizations past this point. There's also a few contract other pieces that we have that we'll be adjusting internally, such as delivery service, more behind the scenes, but the main message to the residents is that everything is the same at the curb.
So building on that, the main message to residents and anybody involved in the Blue Box program will be that starting July 1st, producers of the paper and packaging that's collected by the Blue Box and Recycling Blue Box program will be the responsibility of those producers. The second point is that Miller Waste and GFL will continue being the service providers. So residents on a weekly basis will continue seeing the same trucks driving by. There will be the same collection day, same materials accepted. The collection contact information right now, so when a resident has a missed collection or requires more blue boxes, that information right now is still to be determined. We're working with the contractors to finalize that right now. There's some negotiations going on there. And any additional changes can only happen after July 1st, 2026. So until then, no changes to the Blue Box program. So some timelines on the messaging. The campaign will run from May until mid-August. There may be some continuation after that, depending on what the need is. The region's website has been updated already to reflect these changes and talk about some of the information we already have and highlight some of the information that is still to be determined. We will be covering messaging on all of our channels and all of our media, so digital, radio, television, e-newsletters. Some print items, we will have some print material delivered to every single Blue Box to the residents. So on the weeks approaching the transition, residents will have some information delivered to them so they can see that also in case they haven't seen the other channels. The Waste app will be updated also. And we'll be including information on all of our public events. We'll have some postcards made up. So any event that we attend, we will be handing out information also. We'll have displays at our community events and other events that we participate in. And we will also have a list of FAQs available for members of council that may need them, may request them. So if a resident calls any of members of this council, you will have the information also to provide for them. On the second note, also some good news. On July 1st, our green bin program is being expanded. It will be expanded to accept materials that are not acceptable now, so diapers, adult incontinence products, personal sanitary products, pet waste, pet litter, and other materials that are currently accepted in the garbage that residents have to hold on for 2 weeks will now be accepted with the green bin, and residents can dispose of that material now for diversion on a weekly basis. So some of the changes that are happening, in this case not a change, we're going to continue to require 100% compostable bags or paper bags for the green bin liners. And the reason we're doing this, even though we recognize that diapers and some other materials are in plastic, it's our way of minimizing the amount of plastic that ends up in the green bin. So where we can enforce, we will be. So the compostable liners will be mandated. Any other material, we will strongly encourage for residents to search for compostable alternatives if they exist. There will be no limit, continue being no limit to the amount of green bins that residents can put at the curb for collection. And for a limited time during the 2024, if a resident requires an additional green bin for this extra capacity, that green bin will be available on 1 green bin per household at a reduced rate. The proposal right now is a 50% subsidy, so about $10 for a green bin. And like I mentioned before, this is a service enhancement, so the residents, instead of holding this material for 2 weeks, they can now get rid of it weekly. As with the Blue Box program, we're going to target all of our channels and all of our available communication methods for residents. Again, digital radio, print, our app, the same channels are going to be used for the Blue Box program will be used for this change. And that's it for us, really. Questions?
Thank you for your delegation. I do have a couple of questions. First on the speaker list is Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you guys for your presentation. We're very excited about this new program. I know Ajax is very excited about it. I noticed on the ineligibility piece, it's right now it's BIA's, where was I? BIA's, is there a reason why they would leave the BIA's out of this, do you know? Or is that just, nobody really knows?
Yeah, we do know, and frankly, we're not happy about it. The legislation that was passed in 2016 referred to residential properties, and the producers, as part of the transition, are taking that literally. So many municipalities have historically serviced our small businesses in our business improvement areas, our downtowns. Whether we have a BA or not, we've been servicing our downtown cores. And throughout this transition, we have lobbied hard through AMO and our other organizations to the province to include these small businesses. That has not happened. So we've successfully added these materials during these locations during the transition period, but unfortunately haven't been able to do so far after January 1st, 2026. We are continuing to work with the province on a similar legislation for commercial recycling, and are hoping that these small businesses will be captured under that regulation.
So when you go back to, because as I understand it, everything gets collected. So it's not like, you know, you're sorting in the truck, plastic cans, whatever. It goes back into the sorting. There's like the, what's the building you're taking the recycling back to?
The material recycling facility.
Right, and so then everything gets sorted out at that point. So when you collect from the BIAs or from the small businesses, the same thing would happen, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, everything just gets, so they ultimately get it. They just don't want to pick it up.
Yeah, so for years now, we do an annual reporting to the province on our tonnages, and for years we've backed out of this tonnage out of our reporting. We do it on a cost allocation type of methodology, and we've proposed for the pros to do the same thing, but because the legislation speaks purely to residential tonnage, they're not willing to do it.
And do you think that we'll ever get to a point where we're doing multi-res?
Oh, we're doing multi-res now, and they're part of the program.
But you don't, but I'm sorry, I mean like as in apartment buildings, because we've got so many condos going in, like they have to have a special stream for it, wouldn't they?
We do that now.
Oh, we do that?
Yeah,
Oh,
we do
good.
that now.
Okay, cool.
So the Durham Region services the majority of apartment buildings, condo buildings in the region now. So it's, you know, through our development approvals process, if they meet the region's criteria for municipal collection, they're on. So right now, we're probably servicing about 90-95% of the buildings already anyways.
And the composting, that's a bit trickier with multi-res, right?
That's a little trickier. Part of our green bin expansion program will be the introduction of a green bin program for multi-res. We have a contract awarded, and we're looking to start that sometime 25 or 2026.
Okay. The other thing was with the expansion of the green bin and the residents requiring compost bags when they're putting their stuff in, is there going to be a grace period in that time? Because yeah, just because people have different ways of getting rid of waste, dog waste, and I'm just curious. Like, we're not going to be emptying things that don't have compost bags on the curb, are we?
No.
Please tell me we're not doing that.
Yeah, through your chair. So compostable liner bags are already part of the program.
Yeah.
So other items like doggy bags and diapers and the plastic wraps around diapers are currently plastic. So we won't be enforcing compostable for those items. Okay. We'll just be recommending that residents, if possible, to use compostable alternatives if they exist.
Right. Okay. So they can pretty much use up what they have and then buy when they have to buy.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I think that's. Oh, I did notice actually in our correspondence, the township of, I think it's Perry. I think it is, has a motion here about expanding the blue bin to places of worship, daycares, campgrounds, and public facing. They've got it in their motion, food banks, shelters. So I guess that's part of the region's responsibility as it stands right now.
We service some properties like that, but not all of them. And the ones that are serviced will continue to be serviced during the transition. But after January 1st, 2026, they will be off also.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, next person on the speaker list is Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you both for the presentation today. You addressed one of my points during the presentation where I was thinking of customer service complaints. We do get the occasional one now. So as it stands, that has not been decided, but will be decided by the end of next year, just to clarify?
So we'll have something in place for July 1st. There's just some ongoing conversations between Durham 311 and the potential, and Miller and GFL as a service provider as to if how that customer service will be transitioned over to them and the timing for that.
So when this was first introduced, I think Regional Councillor Crawford brought it up a few years ago. There's the whole idea of the ones who produce the waste are the ones who are paying for it. Just for conceptually, so I can understand, does that mean the people who produce bottles or or Coca-Cola pays for it? Do you have my question?
Yeah, that's the concept of extended producer responsibility, that
The bottle producers or Coca-Cola, or both?
both, really, who provides it into the market. So both of those 8 groups will have to join a producer responsible organization who are going to be responsible for the direct operation of the program, collecting the material, and then sending it to market.
And is there currently, because there must be thousands of producers one way or probably millions, I would argue, is there a comprehensive list that the province provides for us to see if this company is contributing to this?
No, there's no comprehensive list that I'm aware of. What there are in the regulation, it sets out sort of de minimis requirements based on how much material of a certain type you put in. So small businesses won't be caught. As an example, so the region, because we put out, I think it's more than 9 tons of paper per year, we are registered as a producer, whereas the local tiers don't put out quite as much material, so you would be below the de minimis criteria, as I understand it, and not have to register. So it would be the same with businesses.
The app, which is one of the best apps ever created, is the Durham Region Waste app. No irony whatsoever, it's amazing. Would that cease to exist, or that's still in discussion whether these producers would go on with it, or a version of it?
So we're going to continue to provide the app, and we have reached an agreement with Circular Materials Ontario, who's operating the program, at least during the transition period, to continue to have the Know Before You Throw tool on the app. Post 2026, I understand they may be bringing their own app to market, and we'll be looking to see how the back ends could potentially be integrated so that residents can still get that information.
It would still
as
only
easily
be
as
one
possible.
app, though, not multiple apps, I assume, right? You pluralized apps.
There could be, they could launch it under their own app framework.
Like each producer, in a sense, could.
No, it would be sort of one for the Ontario recycling program across the province. It just wouldn't, for example, if they launch their own app, it won't have any garbage information or green bin information. So we're trying to see how we can maintain that recycling piece in the background of the Regions app, because it has been adopted by so many people and people are familiar with it. The back ends hopefully can talk. And I think from what we've seen, it should be achievable. We just won't know for sure until we get towards the end of the transition period.
Would it be an increase in service? Would they be taking more items that maybe Durham Region currently doesn't take? I'll give you a key example. If I open a kid's toy and there's cardboard and plastic, right? I rip it apart, I put the cardboard on the cardboard. Does the plastic go in the plastic, or are there only certain plastics go in the plastic?
So certain plastics right now would go in, like for example, the region doesn't accept film plastic right now. The list of recycled material is being standardized across the province. I can't speak to any specific changes to materials.
Yeah, so one of the biggest criticisms of the Blue Box program across Ontario has been the different materials that are accepted in different municipalities. So the plan for the new Blue Box program is to have the same program across the entire province. So there will be a couple of changes. One thing, a couple of the items that are on the table right now to add to the Blue Box are plastic film, so plastic bags, saran wrap, that sort of material, polystyrene, so expanded polystyrene materials. And one item that's looking to be removed from the Blue Box program would be empty aerosol cans. So they're adding 2 materials and taking 1 out. But that will be the same list across the province.
Okay. And then, because there's a cost removal, right? Like you said, we were paying 50% of the cost. What are we saving as a region once this project is fully up and running?
So this year, the budget implication is about a $2.4 million savings, plus or minus, because we are still working out some of those transition pieces. So it would be roughly $5 million a year on the region budget overall, which helps push against some of the budget challenges we've had, and that just falls to the overall GT rate for the region.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you for the information. Thank you, Chair.
You're very welcome. Next speaker on the speaker list is Councillor Pylamoran.
Thank you, Your Worship. And Regional Councillor Lee pretty much asked all my questions, but I just want to maybe just break it down. So right now, it's a classic call that councillors get, local councillors get, and reach out to our regional partners, regional councillors. So how that works, the Durham Region Waste Management, there's a phone number. So in your page 10 there, where it says Miller Waste and GFL will continue to provide curbside, so I got that. And then we'll be working for, or we'll be working with a producer organization. Does that mean, just so I understand, there's going to be a company that comes in and kind of umbrellas Quebec Ore and Atlantic Packaging, and like he says, maybe thousands, even not millions of producers. They're going to sort of, and it'll just be one company that we deal with for, hey, the blue box hasn't been picked up. Hey, I need a new blue bin. The same way, just mirror it with what's happening now.
Yes, so right now that complaint function where it hasn't been transitioned to a municipality will be with your service provider directly. So for example, Miller would provide a number. But as I said, that's still being developed in terms of the transition between 311 and directly to the contractor, if that's the case. So they'll have a phone number, an email address, that if there's a missed collection, where that information should be sent. And that'll be part of the information we provide to councillors as we get closer. We're still having those discussions kind of on a live basis right now.
Okay, I'm just a little concerned because it's coming, right? It's July 1st. This is not, you're going back and going to come. So as of July 2nd, if there's a problem, right now it's just status quo?
Right now, just status quo. We will have something in place for sure very relatively shortly. I know 311 is actively wrapping up those conversations now, and we'll be pushing that material out with communications as we finalize it.
Okay, excited about the program, and I love the savings that you just quoted. That's amazing. Just want to make sure service levels, not so much going up and down, but we just have the same kind of communication levels that we have now as local council or as councillors.
So right now, through transition, the region has signed on to continue to provide some of those education services during the transition. Again, post-transition, we'll have to see what that looks like. It should ultimately upload to the producer-responsible organizations, but I can't see a situation where the region doesn't provide any information on recycling, through our school programs and some of the other education offerings that we have, just because it is so important on a system basis. But where the funding and what the level of that communication is up for future discussion, and for the most part out of our hands, as it is one of the things that gets uploaded to the producer responsible organizations.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions, Your Worship.
Welcome. Next person on the speaker list is Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. Lots of info. So it sounds like you're very prepared for this. And I don't know if you can speak to, have you had a lot of dealing with the producers themselves, and are they prepared for the changes coming up?
So through the chair, so we've been discussing with the producer responsible organizations and with the province really for the past probably 3 years now, preparing for this. We have seen rollout in several communities already. So I think Ottawa and Toronto both went last year. Everything we've seen to date it's been a relatively smooth transition, which is encouraging, and we're cautiously optimistic. And I think the other piece is that because it will be the same, the same service providers, it'll be the same trucks, same drivers on the street, taking the same materials for at least the short term. We're not anticipating anything major. It just has been a little bit delayed to deal with some of the, the final pieces, such as the communication strategies. Lots of conversations about if our waste management facilities will be able to continue accepting recyclable material as well through the program, and a few other just odds and ends that need to be wrapped up.
Okay, great, thank you. And I'm sorry if I didn't hear correctly, or I'm not sure. You said something about paper. So
Yeah, so just with that, so to determine if you're required to join a producer responsible organization, goes under de minimis criteria for a number of materials. In the region's case, because of the amount of paper products we put out, we do fall under the category of a producer. So we've joined one of the producer responsible organizations to deliver the program across Ontario, as many other large municipalities have.
okay, thank you. And then my last question is, do you expect any complaints or feedback, or maybe you've already received them? So with the green bin, being able to put your cat litter in there, for example, or things that could really make that green bin a lot heavier, I don't know if you can speak to that. Is there anything to say about that?
So there's certainly weight limits with the green bins, and this is why we're looking to provide additional bins where needed. The collection trucks do have some lift assist for the drivers. To be able to do that, that was one of the concerns that we were addressing through the program. But other than that, really, they're on wheels, so they should be more or less able to be rolled down the driveway. Right now, people are carrying the material in their black bags for the most part. So it's been discussed, but I think for the most part, people are viewing it as a good thing as opposed to a challenge.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. Those are my questions, Chair. Thank you.
Problem. Last one I have on my list here is Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Chair. Thrilled to hear about the green bin, the process of that. I've been hearing about that for many years, even as a non-elected official. Why aren't we utilizing the green bin more? So that's great. And I'm sorry if I missed it, but how are we going to hold the service provider accountable for the same level of service that's being received now? How will we know that if complaints are not coming back to us or the region, but are going directly to the service provider? And will they be keeping some kind of record of that or benchmark that will be shown at a presentation in a further time?
So I think your question on the service levels is relating to the Blue Box program. The Green Bin program will continue being offered by the region. The service levels on the Blue Box program, we will be closely monitoring what those are. What we will also be closely monitoring the performance of the collections in terms of their productivity of collecting materials and continuing to divert the material from the waste stream. So we do continuous audits on our all of our streams, so we know what sort of recyclables end up in the garbage, and we will continue to be monitoring that to see if there's any sort of changes. So if their productivity goes down, we expect to see recyclables in the garbage go up, and we will be having conversations with producer responsibilities and the enforcement agency on that if we see that.
Can you speak more? I'm hearing you say you'll be continuously monitoring. So from a councillor standpoint, if we have a lot of complaints, we work in pairs, in wards, we can talk to each other. I've had a lot of complaints on the street. Have you had the same thing? And it can be identified if there's a problem in an area. That's no longer going to happen. So where is that feedback going to come to you now? Because as it stands now, if I'm having an issue as a local councillor, I reach out to Councillor Lee and I say, hey, can you reach to the staff at the region? We're getting a lot of complaints in this particular area, let's say. He does his job through you, and there's a full cycle. And there's a way to connect it, there's a way to see it. How is that going to occur now?
So really, we will just have an advocacy role moving forward. We won't have, we don't have direct control over the contractors. We're really no longer primarily involved in the business itself. So it really just becomes advocacy efforts through AMO, through our various reporting groups, and to an extent through our relationships with the contractors. Miller, as an example, has a number of other contracts with the region, so we're familiar with the staff there. But really, we won't have the same contractual levers to pull that we have before transition.
And through this new agreement, is there a requirement upon the contractor's part in which to keep records of the complaints coming in that will come back to the region?
There is a requirement. I'm not sure if it will be reported back to us directly or more through kind of provincial overall reporting.
Interesting. It seems to be a little bit of a gap there.
For sure. Yeah.
So one of the things the province did do to oversee the program is create a third-party enforcement and register, the Recycling Productivity Recovery Association. They're like the TSSA or the Real Estate Council. So they're responsible for enforcement of the program, ensuring that the producers who are captured under the program register with the program and participate. There are capture rates set in the legislation, and other requirements that are in the legislation. And this association is responsible for capturing the information and enforcing the program. And they will also be tracking performance and including complaints. So while the information won't be directly reported to the region, we will have access to a series of information, and we will be working with them closely to ensure that our local producers and contractors are fulfilling their duties locally.
Thank you. Aside from the concerns that I just mentioned, I'd like to ask, do you have any concerns with regards to the changeover of this?
I can speak myself. I think we've been working with the producers in the province for a number of years now. Like I said, the act came out in 2016, and municipalities have been actually advocating for this change for the last 20 years. So we're anxious for the program to start. We're very curious to see how the program will roll out. We do have a model, a very similar model in the province of British Columbia, where this happened almost a decade ago. And we've seen the outcomes in that program, and there have been a lot of lessons learned. Those lessons have been applied to this transition. So we will be looking very closely, and our biggest concern actually is the service level to the residents. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that.
Excellent.
And if I could add to that, just the changes to the small businesses and the business improvement areas, where we've provided that service, as of many other municipalities, for since the program's inception in many cases, and them not having that ability to have that service anymore, for the region to provide those services, we would be looking at putting additional trucks on the road and operating a completely standalone system, which doesn't have any real cost efficiencies or practicalities. So that's been a big concern, and we, through AMO, through a number of other municipalities, as other municipalities have, continued to advocate for that IC9 material to be included, from on a small business level, or with a similar program to be rolled out across the province. Municipalities have taken the lead on kind of recycling and diversion efforts. The IC9, so industrial, commercial, and institutional diversion, has lagged behind historically, and really continue to advocate to the province to encourage those programs to step up and be developed to reduce the amount of waste going for disposal overall across the province.
Excellent. Well, lucky for you, you've come to the right council, because we have a AMO representative on council, so I'm sure Regional Councillor Crawford has heard all this to take back. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anyone else on the speaking list. Appreciate your presentation today. Thank you. Moving on to the next item. Next delegation is Implementing Program of All-Inclusive Care for Elders, PACE. Paul Sharman, Council Ward 5, City of Burlington, a region of Halton, and President of Halton Community Housing Corporation. Please come forward for your presentation. You'll have 5 minutes.
Mr. Sharman, if you want to press the button in the middle of your screen that looks like a head with, yep.
Can you hear me now?
All right, and I'm happy to control your slides on this end.
Very good, thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, Mayor, good afternoon, councillors. It is a wonderful pleasure to have the opportunity to address you today on a project that I have significant passion for. This is, as Mayor said, the program of all-inclusive care for the elderly. And I will tell you more about that if you wish. My assumption is at this moment you know a lot about it. And you can ask me questions if you would like to know more about it from me, because I know it pretty darn well. This started off as a journey with me in around 2001, as my mother, aging, went through a series of phases as she aged and became increasingly not able to look after her life until eventually she was in a retirement home. And on an Earth Day in the evening, the lights went out, and after the lights came back on, she was confused and disoriented, and approached by a person, mum, who was frail by then, pushed the lady out of the way and said, "Please, please," and that was deemed to be violent. And so subsequently, it was demanded that we move her out of the retirement home, and the only place we could go was to a long-term care facility where she was put in a locked ward, which was absurd. The treatment that she received after that was horrific. Subsequently, she passed on January 31st, in 2015. And it set me on a path with my sister to try to make a difference for our loved ones as we age. Next slide, please. It happened in 2017. A friend of mine who was a senior financial officer at Chrysler, when I was at a conference in Washington, said, "Paul, you're an elected official. Why don't you come and visit with us in Detroit? And I want to show you an organization that I am chair of, which was the United Methodist and the Presbyterian Villages." And I went down with Mayor Goldring at the time, and we visited this. This is the River Run Center, where they had a PACE center on the ground floor. And we didn't know what PACE was at the time, but it was indeed providing all-inclusive care for the elderly, people who are nursing care eligible, but they are keeping them in their own homes and being, which are of course supported housing. And they were able to function very nicely. Thank you. They weren't locked up in a long-term care facility. Next slide, please. So as you can see from this slide, we had a timeline. 2017, we began our discussion about how we could implement PACE in Burlington. We wanted to be the first pilot project ever in Canada, and we did that. But we did it, frankly, by working with community members. We got a community leadership team together. We worked with the wellness community at the time, CCAC at the time, and gradually pulled together what we called the anchor table. And I'll give you the names of all those people on that anchor table. 2018, we launched PACE in 410 John Street. We've been there now ever since, approaching our 4th year. We have 140 members, and I'll give you the data on how well we're doing. Before I do that, next slide, please. If you don't think we need it, think again. As of this moment, we're aging at the rate of 4% a year. The number of people over the age of 75 is increasing. It peaks in 20 years, and the millennials catch up behind us, and it never goes down after that. The primary driver of healthcare patients is, in fact, people over the age of 85. That is the primary driver of load in long-term care. 70% of all people in long-term care in Ontario do not have a health problem. They're being put there because they can't function and family can't handle it. So we need to get those people out of there, and you and I are going there, me sooner than others of you. Next slide, please. I don't know how I'm doing for time, but I just want to give you a quick understanding of the way we see this. That fundamentally, we turned this into what we call now the Community Wellness Hub. It's an adaptation of PACE, but our goal is to keep seniors who are at risk of hospitalization or institutional care to live healthily and happily at home for as long as possible. Our mission is to offer care and support through trusting relationships and an integrated approach that proactively identifies and responds to physical, mental, social flags before individuals get into a crisis where they require acute care resources. Our motto is one team, one vision, one plan. Next slide, please. So I talked to you a little bit about the kind of services, integrated services. On the next slide, please. Did I miss a slide? In any event, we'll just deal with this one because I'm going to have to get through fairly quickly. I have no idea where I am on time. These are the services we provide. We've got a community connector. The coordinator is everything. It makes the services official. The services provided by Thrive and Acclaim, March of Dimes. It makes those organizations more effective and efficient. They have the same people in our homes who come and see them every time. They don't get a new person every time. They don't get somebody who doesn't know them. They always get the right person at the right time. Everything is coordinated for them. Next slide, please. This is our PACE program, our 410 John plant. It's not a question about whether it can be done anymore in Ontario. We've done it. It works. We've scaled it up now. We're doing a great job with this. Next slide, please. Here are we spent $1 million on upgrading our Community Housing Corporation ground floor. You'll see the pictures of that. We put in rooms whereby medical people can meet with our community members. They can get the treatment they need. Next slide, please. This costs us $3 per day per member, and it doesn't matter whether it's in privately built property or in a community housing corporation property. $3 a day, you get about 100. If you get 150 members, the coordinator is the incremental cost, and we can do stunningly good work for these people. And let me just tell you, the next slide. In terms of performance, our impact is we've seen a reduction of 50% of emergency service calls to this building. It used to be the highest number of calls for any building in Burlington. Now it's right there. It's better than most. We also have 74% of our community members feeling less feelings of loneliness, 79 feeling better mental health, minus 24% hospitalization, 16% less rehospitalization, and 60% of the folks feel less feelings of anxiety and depression. And next slide, please. So what are we talking about? We're talking about scaling up. And right now we have 3 centers now in the region of Halton. We're doing a custom-built development in Oakville which will be not a retrofit. It will be the real thing. I'm also working with 4 developers who want to build privately owned supported living housing, which will have PACE centers in the ground floor. And the reason for this, if you go to the next slide, please, is because today we have about 3 million people in Canada over the age of 75. We estimate 1 million of those people need support services and housing. By 2041, there is a need to support 2 million people. So my goal is to get 1 million person PACE capacity in Canada in the next 10 years. We need to get about 400,000 in Ontario. Next slide, please. 3 goals. Improve our quality.
Mr. Sharman, you're
Yes, sir.
at 8 minutes. I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up, please.
Okay, I've got 2 slides. If I just summarize
Okay.
the last one, here's the point. We need to improve our quality of life and the health of our aging community members. For everybody, we need to reduce older adults' need for hospitalization and long-term care, and we need to reduce spending pressure on Canadian government. Otherwise, we need to dramatically increase hospital capacity and long-term care capacity to accommodate people over the age of 85. And next slide, please. It's up to you and me to make it happen. And that's it. Thank you very much. I'll be pleased to take questions.
And I stick to the time because I know the questions are probably going to be in-depth and you're going to have lots more time to talk about the program. So
thank you.
You will have that opportunity. Although I don't see anyone in the speakers list. So I will just make a couple of comments, not so much question, just, and I don't fully understand the program. But as someone my mom passed in December, my mother-in-law passed about a month ago. We've had some dealings very recently with these issues and the difficulty in aging in place, and are doing everything we can now retrofitting my dad's house, who's 82, so he can stay in place as long as he's physically able to. So I can relate to a lot of this. I am going to find out more information on this on my own. I don't have a question, but I see now I've given enough time for a couple of my counselors to come forward. So I'll go to Councillor Bauer.
Thank you.
Second.
Mayor Collier.
Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Sharman, for taking the time out of your day to come and present to us on this very important topic. Very much appreciated. Thank you for the presentation. So on one of your slides, it's page 26 of the presentation agenda, about the cost, $3 a day per member. Could you maybe just speak a little bit more about that, please?
Certainly. Unlike long-term care or hospitalization, there is no need for a building to be specially built. They're already living in the place where they're getting the care. So therefore, the only incremental cost you have is somebody who's actually talking to them every day, the members every day, and coordinating the care services that they need. So that person, the coordinator, can look after 140 people in the community, and the cost works out to be $3 per day per person.
Okay. Okay, and that is paid for by by who?
Well, good for that question. I'm glad that you are making this recommendation.
I'm going to turn your microphone off, Lisa, and I'll
Okay.
turn it back on when he finishes because there's a lot of feedback.
Thank you.
Echoing, yeah. Thank you. I'm glad you are involving the region of Durham and the region OHT. It turns out that in some instances, the OHT will pay for the coordinator. In other instances, we've actually had the service providers themselves pay for it because when Thrive and Acclaim, etc., they are providing services to Fort St. John. What they find is the coordinator role makes their work more efficient and effective. So we have a hybrid system in Halton. In some instances, the OHT has been paying. Some instances, the service providers have been paying. And in another circumstances, the region of Halton Community Housing Corporation has been paying. But we believe in the long run, the OHT is the most logical funding partner.
Okay, Councilor Bowery. Yeah, there you go. You pressed it again.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. Thank you very much for that. Those are my questions for now, but thank you for the work you've done on this, you and your colleagues, and congratulations to Burlington and Halton Region for its success. Thank you, Mayor Collier.
You are welcome. Next person on the speaker list is Councilor Henry.
Thank you. Hi, Councillor Sharman. We've met already. Back in August of 2022, we had a Zoom meeting on this very presentation prior to me being elected. And I would just like to make sure that I understand the proposal as we spoke at that time. So a building, for instance, as my mother's old building, 650 Harwood Avenue South, it's a regional run building. It used to have a room in it prior to COVID. It was taken away just as COVID started, where PSWs could gather in between their shifts because often, as you stated, rightfully so, it is extremely important that seniors have a consistency of the same PSWs if and when possible. The familiarity for them is essential to their everyday health, mental health, and well-being. That type of room served as a place for PSWs to put their coats and purses, personal belongings, in between going to their clients within the building. And often at that time, they would stay in the building, even if they didn't have a client for a few hours later. It was a place for them to decompress and relax. And then if the service called and said, one of your clients needs you sooner, something has occurred, they were on site. So I believe you're talking about something similar, a room like that in a pre-existing gear to rent, rent-to-gear market building, where you have gear to rent market and you have a lower tier market rent, a higher tier and a lower tier market rents, and it's all mixed in one. And then you have this service so that I know in my mom's building there were multiple residents, seniors, waiting to go into long-term care. They were on a wait list, and it was sometimes years. So in between there, the PSW service was extremely valuable and kept them going, especially for those that did not have either children nearby or someone to help and take care of them. So I believe that what you're suggesting here is basically something very similar, where you have that room in a pre-existing building and this service is run out of that room. Is that correct?
The opportunities for how to arrange it are quite significantly different depending on the building. So for example, in Fort St. John, the region of Halton spent $1 million. Actually, maybe we could mute your microphone, Nancy. Would that be possible, please? I'm echoing, I think. Anyway, so sorry. What we found, we spent $1 million because our building was old. to completely refurbish the ground floor so that we had upgraded dining room, meeting room areas, laundry room. But we also put in 3 rooms in which the service providers, medical professionals could come and meet members. Further to that, we took an existing unit in the building and converted it into a place where services could be provided. So there was that factor to it. I just want to make the point that this building, the pilot project and the subsequent properties that we've converted now are all supportive housing. They're not retirement homes. They are just places where older adults can live. They are all community housing, so they're all income adjusted. The critical issue for us is that these are people who are well. But that said, we can keep people in there. They can stay there even as they become eligible for long-term care. And I'll give you the example. We are working in what we call the Coalition of the Willing with the Centre d'Écoute Héritage in Toronto. It's a francophone building with 180 units. They do have about 30% of their community members, and they are receiving PACE services. They're not called that, but 30% of their community members are long-term care eligible. And the province keeps asking us we're asking them when we're going to see those people. They could be in long-term care, and the CAH director says no, we don't need to. We are looking after them, and they can stay there right the way through to end of life. The same is true with the Peel Seniors Housing. Peel Housing. There's an organization called Peel Seniors Link. Ray Applebaum is the president. He will tell you also that 30% of the people they're providing service to are long-term care eligible. They are not going into long-term care. They can't get a room in long-term care, and even if they could, they wouldn't want to send them. Does that help?
Thank you. Yes, it does. I'm very happy, as I told you prior to the election, I'm still at the same spot now, very happy to support any motion that would come forward to support this. So thank you for your presentation today, taking the time to meet with me prior and taking the time to come before council now. You're doing some great work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that concludes the speakers list. Thank you for your presentation today.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Moving on to items of correspondence. Do we have any polls? I have a text here from Councillor Crawford wanting to pull items 5 and 9. Are there any others? Not seeing any other names in the speakers list. I'm going to just go by moved by Councillor Henry, second by Councillor Lee, that the report dated March 25th, 2024, containing items of correspondence we received for information, that is, except for 5 and 9. Please vote. And those carry. Going on to item number 5. Councillor Crawford, can you press your mic button, please? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just think that it's important to pull number 5 to endorse what they're asking for here, that it's been literally copied to everyone that has ever been in politics. But I would even be in favor if we did send it out to our own MPP and MP, again, just from us, just to endorse this motion on the justice system and the court systems, and the fact that we need more. It seems like such a waste of time when the police do the effort to catch, and then the criminals are released right back out again into the system. So I would support this and ask for council to endorse this.
Okay. I see comment by Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. While I understand the intent behind endorsing, I think there is a lot of education that needs to go through regarding our court system, our bail system, our lack of judges, the mass incarceration of criminals that we're seeing in the States and how one can lead to the other to the other. It's not simply a matter of, yes, catch and release is a very catchy phrase, but are our jails currently overfilled? And if so, what are we doing to clear that out before just jailing more people? And I understand there are repeat offenders and there's a danger to the community, and I'm not blind to that. But I also think that, you know, we do have a Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which guarantees us all some basic freedoms and rights. And without fully understanding that or getting a legal opinion on that, I just think it's a dangerous thing to just say, yeah, we want these criminals locked up without fully understanding the socioeconomic byproduct that comes with motions like these. Thank you, Chair.
No problem. I see Councillor Crawford back in the speaker list. Before I let you back in, I'm just going to comment as chair of the police board. I'll change hats for a minute. Because I agree and disagree with some of Councillor Lee's comments. This is a significant problem. Last year in Durham Region, we had in excess of 738, I believe is the number, of people out on bail re-offend, sometimes within minutes of being released. Now, I'm all for rights and freedoms, but I am really leaning in this case towards the rights of those innocent people that were reoffended, or sorry, that these reoffenders infringed on their rights. Because I think, in my mind, their rights take precedent over somebody who has been charged and convicted and released on bail and reoffends. So it's a bit of a slippery slope. I don't think what this motion or this thing asks for, which is asking the federal government to give more money, is really going to do anything. The provincial government just gave, I believe it was $43 million a month or two ago to increase, to create units in our police forces that can go out and monitor people out on bail, making sure they're complying with their bail restrictions and putting them back in jail if they're not. My comment at that time was, that's $43 million that I don't think is really being well spent, because I would just not put them out on bail. I would look at other ways to strengthen the system, because this revolving door, as Councillor Crawford says, is causing enormous costs, an enormous workload to our first responders. And until there is some tightening up of the legal system and perhaps some changes to the Criminal Justice Act, I don't remember exactly what it's called, that gives some things like minimum penalties. And I'm sorry if our jails are overfilled. You know, I would rather have the serious offenders in there than the people that were caught, you know, for minor offenses, figure out another way to do things there. And I don't want to open this up for a huge debate. We're just talking about endorsing a motion, which I'm happy to endorse. I just want to make those comments that this is a very complex issue, and probably much deeper than this amended or this endorsed motion will show. Councillor Crawford, you are next on the list.
Thank you. I feel there's nothing wrong with supporting this motion. We just recently had two people come in to our neighborhood and fire 26 rounds into a house that fortunately was empty. So as far as I'm concerned, I think that we need to protect the residents that are here and left a neighborhood absolutely terrified. So I would hope that this council would endorse this at the very least.
Councillor Lee, comment?
Yeah, I don't think we get to pick and choose when rights and freedoms apply. I think they're available for all citizens. That's what makes this country so great. And we are protected by them, whether under all circumstances. And I think just, again, I'm not for crime. I think, again, criminals should be locked up. I agree with that. But I also think there's due process. There are rights, whether we like it or not, for everybody. And we don't just get to pick and choose when it's convenient to apply those rights, because that leads to an incredibly dangerous government and society. So I'm not going to support, but I just want to make it clear that I'm by no means in support of crime, but I think there's also way deeper reasons why crime exists, rather than just, violence, etc. Thank you, Chair.
No problem. I think we'll agree to disagree on that one. I don't see anyone else in the speaker list, so Mr. Clerk, please open the vote. And that carries. Moving on to item 9, Councillor Crawford. Press your button, please. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On this one is, we've had lots of conversations at AMO. Sorry, I'm just pulling it up here. Around legislative, amendments to improve the municipal code of conducts and enforcements. And I just feel that it's necessary, because I know I've been part of these conversations with AMO, that we support what's being asked here in this motion. That's all.
Okay. Not seeing any other comments in the speaker box. We have the motion to endorse, moved by Councillor Crawford, seconded by, I'll stick to my ward, Councillor Tyler Morin. Please open the vote. And that carries. And Mr. Clerk, for the last one, I don't think I put a second, or I'll put Councillor Tyler Morin as well, sticking to the Ward 1 theme for those. That concludes our items of correspondence. Moving on to reports. Let me catch up here. Item 7.1, Community Affairs and Planning Committee for March 4th, 2024. Moved by Councillor Bauer, seconded by Councillor Dies, that Community Affairs and Planning Report dated March 4th, 2024 be adopted. Questions or comments? Not seeing any in the speakers list. Please open the vote, Mr. Clerk. That carries. To the General Government Committee report. General Government Committee for March 18th, 2024. Moved by Councillor Crawford, seconded by Councillor Tyler Morin. The General Government Committee report dated March 18th, 2024 be adopted. Questions or comments? Seeing none, please open the vote. And that carries. To Advisory Committee. Moved by Councillor Lee, second by Councillor Henry, that the summary of Advisory Committee activities report dated March 25th, 2024 as attached to the meeting agenda be received for information, and that the recommendations contained therein be referred to staff where applicable. Anything on the reports? I see Councillor Bauer. You wanted to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Collier. I just had a question on page 43 of the agenda. So it's the Heritage Advisory Committee. And there was a point about shared interest in exploring the opportunity to approach Metrolinx regarding installing additional display materials at the Ajax GO station. So if I could just ask if there's a staff member or committee member who could just speak a little bit about this and what the intent is?
What's the page?
Page 43, Councillor Tyler Morin. It's the...
And which
Is there any member of
Second
staff,
bullet down.
Mr. Clerk, that can speak to this?
right there?
Hi, I'm sorry, I don't have any details on this at the moment, but I'd be happy to seek those out and get back to you, Councillor Bauer.
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't ask in advance. And Mayor Collier, if you'll allow the council committee member, Councillor Tyler Morin, a second in case he does have information about that, please.
Go ahead, Councillor Tyler Morin.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm looking at this, I apologize, and I don't remember this being being an agenda item. So that's my answer. I apologize, but in the fairness of being truthful, I don't recall this in our heritage meetings.
Okay.
Okay, so
Not saying it didn't happen.
We'll, through the clerk, have Mr. Sawchuk review this and get back to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That was my question.
Okay, not seeing anything further. Can we open the vote on the summary of advisory committee reports, please? And that is carried. There are no departmental reports. Regional council reports. Are there any regional council reports? Councillor Crawford, let's turn your mic on.
Everything that we've been dealing with in the past week has been on budget. So every single meeting has had something to do with the budget. So that'll be wrapped up Wednesday, I guess. So that there's really nothing to report.
Councillor Lee?
Thank you, Chair. Along the lines of what Regional Councillor Crawford was alluding to, the Finance Committee recommended to Regional Council for Wednesday that the regional portion of the tax levy will be 7.5%. You know, there's a lot of provincial, federal pressures, responsibilities that we've taken hold of. I think that brings Ajax to a blended rate of 6.58%, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be finally debated on Wednesday and then approved. So we'll see what happens on Wednesday. Thank you, Chair.
Any questions? Oh, hold on. By Councillor Dyes, second by Councillor Bauer, that the Regional Council reports of March 25th, 2024 be received for information. Questions? Please open the vote. Okay, and that carries. Moving on to business arising from notice of motion, calling on the province to urgently increase Ontario Works rates. Councillor Lee and Councillor Dyes. Councillor Lee, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not going to read the motion into record. Council can see it in front of you. I just want to point out that I think we have not increased Ontario Works rates in over 5 years. In those 5 years, we've had a global pandemic, a housing crisis, and now a homelessness crisis, all linked into this. I think by increasing OW rates, we can alleviate some of the pressures on homelessness. I think right now an adult, and a single adult can earn $733, which we can all agree will barely make a dent in groceries, let alone rent. I think right now we need to increase this this funding, which will then trickle down to alleviate a lot of the unsheltered issues that we've been seeing as municipalities. So I would appreciate your support on this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Crawford, there you are.
Maybe the seconder before me.
Yep, that's just saw Councillor Dyes come up. Councillor Dyes, please go ahead.
Thank you. And obviously, this is something that has been a discussion at Health and Social Services at the Region of Durham. We are not getting what we need to support those who are on OW as it is, and to support the homeless population at the same time. And we really require some funding from the province, you know, to support these issues of poverty before these people do become homeless. So basically, as was stated by Councillor Sterling Lee, we have been at the same rate since 2018 with Ontario Works at $733 a month for housing. So I don't know where you can live for that. So that's problematic right away. You're going to need a part-time job or a job in order to support yourself. But if you make over $200, it's clawed back on what you receive from Ontario Works. And it's the same with the disability too. While it has increased, they can make $1,000 before they're clawed back on their disability. So we really need to look at these things a little bit closer, and we need to provide a stable income that will enable these people to go out and work and get a job and not become homeless. So I hope you support this resolution.
Councillor Crawford.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor Dyes really made my point where if you make over a certain amount of money, you get deducted from your OW. But it's a vicious circle because, and I realize that they're trying to wean people off dependency of it, but in the cost of things that we have today, it's impossible to live, and so I will support this.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other members in the speakers list, so Mr. Clerk, please go ahead and open the vote. That carries unanimously. Moving on to our next item. Supportive Aging in Place initiatives for Ajax seniors, moved by Councillor Dyes, second by Councillor Bauer. Councillor Dyes, can you press your button to speak, please?
Thank you.
Councillor Dyes, you have the floor.
I'll just read the motion very quickly. It's whereas the town of Ajax is facing a rapidly aging population with the percentage of individuals over 65 making up 13% of the overall population according to the 21 census data, and up from 7.3% in 2001. And many Canadians want to age in place in their own home and community, which requires appropriate health and social supports and services to facilitate independent living. And whereas the Ministry of Health, through its Home Care Modernization Initiative, is seeking innovative in-home care delivery models. And whereas the program of all-inclusive care for the elderly, PACE as it's called, the model provides a comprehensive medical and social service delivery system using an interdisciplinary team approach to coordinate all preventive, primary, acute, and long-term care needs. The PACE model of care is being delivered successfully in other communities, municipalities, including Burlington, where we just heard from, and where the PACE community in Burlington is celebrating its 5th anniversary. And whereas implementation of the PACE program in Ajax would benefit residents while alleviating demands on local hospitals and related healthcare institutions. So therefore, we are recommending, Councillor Bauer and myself, Ajax Council support the Region of Durham expanding the PACE program into the town of Ajax. And to speak to it, I think, and it's not a women's issue, but I think most women do have the responsibility of looking after aging parents and people who are in some sort of medical crisis. And I can tell you I have some experience in that, and the system here is broken. Our healthcare system, we can't keep up with the hospital emergency calls, and you know, the emergency rooms are full. This will alleviate some of that problem. When you have a system where you're deploying all the necessary needs to a household, and when we're told that that is available when our loved one comes out of hospital or when our loved one decides to stay at home. But you find out very quickly it's for a very short period of time. And you really need somebody full-time, a family person full-time, to take care of them. And that's not so simple. This PACE program will allow people to stay at home and get whatever the necessary support is for their particular needs. They're not at a time in their life where they may need long-term care home or long-term care at home at this point or in a different facility, which there are no placements available, by the way, in long-term care. That's a long wait if you want that. You have to pay privately for retirement care. So, you know, this program not only deploys PSWs, it deploys whatever the needs are, as Councillor Sharman reiterated, depending on the needs. If it's a physiotherapist, there's all kinds of different needs for any given person. And it really takes a community to help out with that. Currently, we have Ajax Municipal Housing, not-for-profit housing, where a lot of our seniors live. We have 2 seniors buildings here from Ajax Municipal Housing and 1 from the region. And these are perfect places for these hubs to be established and visit on a regular basis. They do have PSWs currently in 4 of the Ajax Municipal Housing buildings. And I can tell you firsthand, because my father lived there, it was a godsend. But that's mostly on the day-to-day living issues that you experience, somebody helping you with your laundry, helping you clean the house, helping you do some shopping, take you to a doctor's appointment, that kind of thing. But when it comes to medical and mental health, we really do need a lot more support in the community. So I hope you will consider this. They are just asking for our support as a municipality in our community to get this thing up, to get it started, and to bring to the table those people that would be major players. We're all very familiar with the hub, the homelessness hub, and it kind of works the same way. You bring in all the not-for-profit agencies that we may need around the table to support it. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Bauer.
Thank you, Mayor Collier, and thank you very much, Regional Councillor Dies, for bringing this very important motion forward. I know it's a passion of both you and me, and thank you again to Councillor Sharman, who really spearheaded the creation and success of the program in a different region out in the West End. So I'll first start with, if they can do it, we can do it too, and maybe we'll even do it better. So, you know, this has been something that I've heard since becoming a councillor, that our seniors want support, they want to stay at home, they want to be able to have a familiar surroundings, familiar people, help in their caregiving process and aging process. I come from a family of 4 daughters, and my dad is now 82 years old, so that's a lucky scenario where he has 4 caregivers and a wife, and a bunch of grandkids too. But this is something I think is very, very important for Ajax and Durham Region to really, really examine on how we can get that program here. Our aging population is growing. They want this. And I'll just give a shout out to the Seniors for Social Action Ontario group, who I believe are founded in Ajax. They have been clear advocates and very passionate and persistent in raising awareness of this program. So I would really appreciate everyone's support for our motion. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further, oh wait, Councillor Henry just appeared.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a lot to say about this because I've already said what I had to say, but I would just like to say that this is a promise I made if I was elected, that I would support this, and I'm very happy today to fulfill that promise. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no others, please call the question, Mr. Clerk. Certain that is carried. Yep, unanimously. Moving on to the next item. It's the amendment to the Code of Conduct, moved by myself, second by Councillor Crawford, and I won't read it. Basically just that the red line changes to the Code of Conduct as provided in attachment 1 be adopted and presented to Council for approval. I'll speak to it quickly because I put these out in advance, asking for comments and feedback from Council. So if there are any changes needed, I could implement that before the agenda goes public and you know, avoid getting into or having misunderstandings. But I understand that there are some by some feedback that I've got today. So I'll try and address that and then answer any questions the best that I can. First, I don't do anything just off the cuff. There's lots of consultation with clerks, with staff. A number of things go into behind the scenes on these. It became apparent to me when we had a motion for a lobby registry for one, for some other things, that in looking at the Code of Conduct, the $300 gift threshold was not realistic in today's day and age. That was established back in 2003 when the Code of Conduct originally came out, an item that I ran on in my 2003 campaign. And at the time, 300 was probably the right number, just like and I'll liken it to our official plan, 25 stories high was probably the right number 21 years ago. But is it today? I would suggest that the $300 mark, as we've talked about in a couple of things today, has probably about tripled. So in consultation with staff, the number 1,000 was the number that was established. I heard some feedback about we all go to galas, we all go to Board of Trade events, we all go to different things to support our community. And if someone invites us, I'll use my gala as an example. If somebody pays $30,000 for a table and there's 10 seats threes of math, that doesn't mean each seat is worth $3,000. There is a cost, which is probably more around $500, which is the true cost for that meal, entertainment, everything else, and the rest is a donation. So that number going forward will be provided. Our clerk reached out to the Integrity Commissioner a few months ago and asked about the gift and donation piece, and it was a recommendation, and please, Madam Clerk, actually, sorry, not clerk anymore, Madam Deputy CAO, confirm if I, or correct me, sorry, if I'm wrong, that the Integrity Commissioner said it's not helpful to try and go back and do this retroactively since it's not something we have been very good at doing, that we just sort of do this starting today going forward once this new change is made. So I think the $1,000 more reflects today's economy. It's not some sort of way to get around any type of reporting whatsoever. It's just something more in keeping. I'll speak to the changes also to the review process because it's not meant to make every single complaint that happens to that goes to the Integrity Commissioner becomes an active investigation that we get billed for. No. What it is meant to avoid is we pay somewhere about $25,000 a year, sometimes more, sometimes less, to the Integrity Commissioner to investigate complaints. I know for an absolute fact I have had dozens of frivolous complaints against myself for all sorts of things, and to my knowledge, every single one has been dismissed without cause. That would still be the case. What I'm talking about is we have a code of conduct, and if the Integrity Commissioner finds that there has been a contravention to the code of conduct, the wording that I'm asking to change today removes the ability for the Integrity Commissioner to just sort of settle it on the side, to just sort of have a little mediation that nobody knows about, that never gets reported, and just says, okay, this person apologized to this person, and we're just going to move on like it never happened. That may be nice, and that may be, but it raises the question, why bother having a code of conduct? And it also raises the question that we still get the significant invoice from the Integrity Commissioner for that mediation, but there's no reporting, there's no accountability, and there's no transparency back to us as a council, who are the employee here of the Integrity Commissioner, or to the taxpayers who are actually paying the bill. And I don't think that is right. So I hope that's clarified my intent of taking out that mediation piece. It's not meant to say that every complaint that comes against any of us, mostly me, I think, is going to be investigated. No, if it's outside the 6-month window of reporting, if it's found to be non-warranted, non-valid, it will be dismissed. What the wording of this is to take away that mediation piece, which really kind of removes the need for a code of conduct, in my opinion, if it's just going to be sort of brushed under the carpet, but we're still going to be billed for it, and we have no way to validate that or account for that. So that is my intent. I hope I've clarified any concerns. Going forward, I would appreciate knowing these before today. That would be great. And hopefully we can keep moving forward productively. I will open it up now to the seconder. If Councillor Crawford would like to comment. I see her name. Just 1 minute.
I think you've covered all of it. I'm good.
I do that, sorry. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. And in all discrepancy, the mayor and I have been speaking about this real time. So the idea of an informal complaint procedure makes a lot of sense to me. So the mayor used the analogy of what's the point of having a code of conduct if we can informally deal with it? And it's no different than getting caught for speeding, going 45 and a 30, and then getting knocked down to a 40. Like there's human error, and we have the code of conduct is like 22 pages, and I can only imagine a brand new counselor coming in, making a mistake, and then all of a sudden it going through a formal process over something that may have genuinely been a mistake. I don't think this, by eliminating the informal complaint procedure, which again is standard in any small or large company, I think in any HR process, there's always an informal complaint procedure. Why are we not giving ourselves that same allowance is my question. I think it's just a very fair ask. It just takes what may seem like a big deal, condenses it. And again, the IC can use their discretion. If it is a quote unquote big deal, they can escalate it. Or if parties don't want to go through an informal complaints procedure, that can be done as well. But this no error ball that this forces us to play is insanity, in my opinion. I think the accusation in today's political climate is 1,000 times worse than the verdict sometimes. And these accusations can stick with people for a very long time. And my concern is this being, improperly used to attack members of office. So I have no problem with the amount, the ticket amount from 300. That's fine. But again, removing this whole passage, I know I haven't done my research, admittedly, but I'm going to ask the clerk: is an informal complaint procedure pretty standard in codes of conduct that you had reviewed up to this point?
The clerk?
Through the chair to Regional Councillor Lee, I haven't done a comprehensive benchmarking on this, but in the codes that I've seen, in my experience, they do tend to include some pathway for informal resolution.
So, again, if it's just the ticket amount, I have no problem supporting that. But this is again, I'm just viewing it as a worst case scenario, what could happen, especially, again, with a new council possibly coming in and a junior councillor not knowing the rules, trying to shake things up, and then obviously having an IC complaint stuck to their record because of what is quite honestly a human error, basic mistake. So those are just my thoughts. Thank you, Chair.
Welcome, Councillor Bauer. You are next.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. So the informal complaint procedure, I just want to confirm, this procedure does not require reporting to council, is that correct?
My understanding is not in its current form, but I'll turn it over to the Deputy CAO to clarify.
So the Code of Conduct as written provides the Integrity Commissioner discretion to handle complaints in a way that can be dealt with by disposition letter. So where there is a complaint that has not gone to a formal investigation, it's still in the informal stage, and the Integrity Commissioner sees an opportunity to resolve that through some coaching or maybe some lessons learned. That can be disposed of by what the Integrity Commissioner calls a disposition letter, where a letter is issued to the parties involved and the matter is just disposed of in that manner.
Okay. So maybe just to question some of Mayor Collier's comments, if the issue is these informal complaint procedures happen, they're not really reported, we still get charged for them. Could we have an informal complaint procedure where it is reported?
To the clerk? Or sorry, Deputy CAO?
Yeah, that would be an available option, I think. That's not what's being proposed today, but I could see changes that still leave the option of an informal resolution pathway, but where the outcome of that is still reported to council in some manner.
Okay. I'm just wondering because, if it was me, I would want the ability to go through an informal complaint procedure, because that, I think, would be a fair next step to trying to correct behavior that I unknowingly perhaps crossed the line, or if it was knowingly, then definitely a formal complaint would be called for. So if one of the issues is these things go and they're swept under the rug and nobody knows about them, and that is causing concern to the mover and the seconder, could that be resolved by allowing this procedure to stay in place, but with the caveat that it is reported? So we do know the outcome of some of these events, informal or formal. I'm not sure if that is coming across that I'm making sense by what I'm saying, but I'm thinking reporting for everything. That's how we really are transparent, is we report everything. Sorry? In close or open. So what is that procedure currently? It's closed? And we've had it opened?
Open session.
Okay.
Deputy CEO?
So it might, I'm just thinking if, you know, if all we get is a yes, no, and, or if all we get is the formal ones, that doesn't really cover the scope of what the Integrity Commissioner is doing for our residents, why it's costing so much, what are some of the learning opportunities for members of council. I don't know, I feel like we're going from, no, you're never gonna get a complaint, to, yep, it's just formal, here it is. I think that informal thing, I mean, that's all part of you know, discussion, conversation, negotiation, learning, education. So I just wonder, we all want to follow the rules and be transparent and be open. So if we can have this process and it's reported, so it's all out in the open for everybody, would that suffice?
So, are you finished, Councillor Bauer?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe just part of a conversation, and I am guilty of not responding to you sooner when you sent that motion for feedback, so I apologize that I am just throwing this out there at you right now.
That's okay. I was just trying to make a point. I've turned your mic off. That's why I asked if that was done, because I'm getting a lot of feedback on my end. So before I go to the next speaker, which is Councillor Dyes, let me just see if I can be helpful here. Because I hear what everybody says. And again, I do prefer to have these conversations before so we can make these adjustments, not on the floor, but with the staff feedback. Just to some of the comments before I move on, like respectfully, it's incumbent on us to learn the job. We run for the job. I mean, I've said this in debates when some of the other candidates are making promises that they absolutely cannot fulfill with regards to the budget, or they're just ignorant of the process. I don't know which one it is, but I mean, it's up to you if you want to run for the job to educate yourself, and that includes the code of conduct, and abide by it. To me, ignorance is not an excuse, but I can see some of the comments were made by some of the members today. So putting that aside, I will also say, and I think I said this before, I've received literally dozens of complaints, and all have been found unsubstantiated, and many of them have been made public by the people who made the complaint, and there's been zero political impact, because obviously I keep getting elected. So I wouldn't put too much into that, because I think people see these frivolous and vexatious complaints for what they are. What I have a problem with is them doing it at the expense of the taxpayer. We have one that is continuously, that is nearing the $100,000 mark against me and against the town. And that's not reasonable to have these types of expenses happening and not have any kind of accountability and not have any type of transparency, which is what I'm trying to do. The informal complaint process also takes away any decision-making power from this council, because if there's a contravention of the code of conduct, which there would be in this informal complaint process, the procedure to me is the Integrity Commissioner investigates it and reports back to council with recommendations, and it's up to the council to decide what happens to that. And if a member has contravened the code of conduct, that shouldn't be private, that shouldn't be hidden. If it's minor, then it's up to the public to decide if that's minor. I am open to an amendment to the second part. I'm hearing that everybody's fine with the dollar amount, which I figured they would be. I am open to an amendment to the informal, and I'll ask the Deputy CAO, who is the one that I think has the conversation about this, how we could still have that, but make sure that that reporting comes back to council with recommendations. And if that's agreeable, I'm open to that. I don't know, Ms. Cooper, if you could speak to that?
Yes, I can, thank you. I think that's definitely achievable, so what that would look like would be leaving section 2 largely intact, but leaving some of the additional changes later on that require some periodic reporting to council that will give you better insights into the activity that's taking place with the Integrity Commissioner. But I would just ask council, we need to make sure all these sections work together and that I haven't missed anything about how these pieces interact. So if there's no major sense of urgency, I wouldn't mind just having the space of like the next couple weeks to make sure that all the language is adjusted properly to reflect that desire, and then bringing that bylaw back at the next meeting for approval.
Okay, so why don't we do that then before we get too much more into this, because I think that clarification will probably help. And I don't want to rush it and not do it right. So can you take that back? We can just do a deferral today. You take that back, massage it a little bit with the wording, re-solicit it to council, and hopefully get the feedback this time if we need it, if any further changes are needed, and we'll deal with this at the next council meeting. Yes,
certainly we can do that. Thank you.
Okay, is that acceptable to members of council? I can't see you. I'm going to go to the speakers list now. Councillor Dyes, you're next.
Oh, I've been shut off. Okay, we're okay?
No, you're
Just
speaking.
a quick question. If we're going to go back and revisit this, will we also include the opinion of the Integrity Commissioner, since we work together on all of this? Is that an option? Because there may be ways that they, who knows, that they can come up with a different reporting method or, So I don't know if Mr.
I believe
answer that.
Deputy CEO.
That is an available option, but having listened to the discussion today, I do think I have clarity on what would be acceptable to the members of council and to the mayor. So we are happy to take that away at a staff level. But that is an available option if council wishes to get that additional advice.
Well, I guess the question too, would it be appropriate or acceptable to the Integrity Commissioner, because he obviously has a format of how he works? Would that be an issue? He or she, I should say.
Yeah, so through the chair, the Integrity Commissioner will likely have views on the proposed changes that council may wish to consider, but I would also just say that in some ways, the Integrity Commissioner is a service provider that's engaged to administer the code of conduct that council has approved. So the code of conduct and the complaints procedure should reflect largely what council feels is appropriate, and the Integrity Commissioner is engaged to work within those boundaries. So I hope that gives some clarity on sort of the roles here.
Okay, thank you. That's my question. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Henry, on the deferral.
On the referral. So referring it back to staff with only this, and I do have an issue with it slightly. I had sent an email to you, Mr. Mayor, on March 14th with regards to my consultation with the IC. And I asked, should we not have a comment from the IC before this lands on the council floor? And I'm seeing from what's happening here today, there has not been consultation. So one, I would like to ask that consultation comes before the IC. And obviously I feel the IC has something to offer, or I would not be pursuing this. My second thought to this is it's my understanding that the IC, through the lower levels, sent forth a code of conduct.
That's not on the deferral motion, Councillor Henry.
So then, with regards to the referral, can I word it another way and state why are we moving forward with this right now, knowing that there's something at the region that's working its way through the process? Why are we not waiting for that before we move forward with this? And can we have the Integrity Commissioner take a look at this, please, and give feedback?
I will just give my comment and turn it over to Deputy CAO. Personally, what the region decides to do is up to the region, and what we decide to do is up to the municipal council. We have 8 municipalities in the region of Durham. Sorry, I'm just going to turn your mic off. There. We have 8 municipalities. Each one is different. Each one does their own thing. We can't even get aligned on a sign bylaw. We're not going to be aligned on a code of conduct. We're the first one to have a code of conduct, by the way, back in 2023. And now the others have followed suit because they're required to do. But I'm not interested in trying to consult with the regional code of conduct, just like we have different policies and procedurals bylaws, the way we deal with deferral motions, for instance, and motions to reconsider. There's always going to be differences, and quite honestly, this is about accountability of Ajax councillors to Ajax residents, and I don't want to complicate it by worrying about what the region's trying to do. It's irrelevant, really. They can't tell us what to do. Hope that answers the question.
Does not.
Councillor Brown?
Can I have my mic back on? My mic was turned off.
Hold on.
Thank you.
There you go.
Sorry, Mayor Collier, not exactly. It does not exactly answer my question, because my understanding is the code of conduct that's going through the region is not to be just adopted at the region, but it is a template that the IC would like to see adopted throughout the municipalities. That is my understanding, and if I'm wrong on that, I would love to have the IC comment on that as well. But I am sure enough in my stance on this that I'm asking that we...
I'm gonna get the deputy CAO to speak to this, because again, she's the one with the information and can clarify.
Thank you. I hope I can provide some clarity here. So, Councillor Henry, you're correct that there has been a movement afoot, probably for the last several years, amongst the Durham Region clerks with a desire to sort of bring at least some degree of conformity to the lower codes with the region code, just to assist in council members who sit on both councils not having to navigate 2 sets of rules. This has been going on for a very long time, and as part of that, the Integrity Commissioner does have a template code of conduct that is substantially different from our existing code that he would like to see adopted by his clients. At this point, we have no indication that that's moving forward anytime soon. I checked in with the regional clerk as of last week, and they currently have no timeline or no plan for bringing it forward. And there's really no purpose in us doing so until we have some indication from the region that they intend to bring that forward. And even then, there's no guarantee that it would even be adopted by the region. So I have to agree with the mayor. I don't really consider that material to the conversation today.
So then, can I ask that we have the IC review the changes we're bringing forward?
I'll just, again, speak to it and then turn it over to Nicole. My personal thought is I'm not too concerned about what the Integrity Commissioner thinks about it. Again, the Integrity Commissioner is an employee that works for us. We have followed their advice on a lot of these things, but I found from several iterations of this code of conduct over my last 21 years, what the Integrity Commissioner wants doesn't always match what we want. There's always some things we don't agree with and don't go ahead with. I think this is a fairly minor change, just asking for them to report back. And personally, my personal opinion, I couldn't care less whether they want to do it or not. We will be paying them to do it, and they will do what we ask them to do. Otherwise, we'll find a different Integrity Commissioner.
But Mayor Collier...
Like the clerk said already, hold on. Like the clerk said already, I don't see the value in it, and I don't want to hold this up any further. So, Nicole, do you have anything to add?
No.
So Mayor Collier, I understand what you're saying, that we are the final here, and you don't care what they have
You
to
asked the
say.
question, I answered it.
So my next question, Mayor Collier, is, we've hired them to do a job, and this is part of the job, reviewing such things. This is part of the job we've hired.
We're speaking on the deferral.
I am speaking on the referral, sir. I'm requesting that we have the IC look at it.
Okay, so, thank you. I heard your request.
Can I put a motion on that, or no? An amendment?
I guess you can put a motion on that to the clerk?
No, a motion to defer is not amendable, so it would be in your hands, Mayor Collier, if you want to accept that as a friendly or not.
I do not. Okay, not seeing anyone else in the speakers list. On the motion to defer to Councilor Bauer.
Thanks, Mayor Collier. I did have my button pushed, but it went off. And I apologize because I know you already said this, but maybe I could get just confirmation or clarification from the 300 to the 1,000.
Pardon?
The disclosure statement, the amount changed from 300 to 1,000, and I know that was an amount that was picked 20 years ago, and you talked about inflation, but where did the $1,000 come from?
I did mention, but
Yes.
that was through the initial consultation with CAO Cooper, and so I'll turn it over to you, please. Deputy CAO Cooper.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm trying to go back in my memory here. I do believe I may have proposed that amount. At the time, we were looking at the $300, and I think there was broad agreement that it was quite low, out of step with what we see in other codes of conduct. I do recall us doing sort of a loose benchmark of other places and trying to find an amount that was reasonable, and that was what we came up with.
Okay, so other municipalities, you did find others that set 1,000 as the limit?
Yes, I wouldn't say it was like a comprehensive study, but we did a bit of a scan and just tried to come up with a number that was sort of nice and round and in line with what we're seeing in other places. We do a comprehensive review of the Code of Conduct every 5 years, and we are due to do that next fall. So at that time, we would do a more comprehensive scan and just make sure that that number is still in line with what we're seeing elsewhere.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor Collier.
And Mrs. Cooper, thank you for pointing that out, because this is not something that I think any of us want to be revisiting on a regular basis. So we want to set an amount that's probably going to last for at least a couple of years. Okay, Councillor Henry, I'm not letting you back in. You've had your 5 minutes. We're going to go to the vote now. Mr. Clerk?
Thank you. Point of privilege.
Sorry?
Thank you.
Point of privilege?
Point of privilege, yes, I did. Mayor Collier, you referred to this, and you've referred to it before, that I've had my 5 minutes. Are we being timed on this? Because I'm not seeing any clocks on from the clerk. Are we being timed on this? On our questions? If not, I'm the only one that's ever been called on this. Yes, Mayor Collier, I know that you're timing me. I know that you're timing me, but I'm asking if we're all being timed on this, every council member on our times, to the deputy clerk.
I am not timing members of council.
Thank you. So, Mayor Collier, why am I being the only one ever timed?
You're not the only one ever timed. I time every member of council.
So, shouldn't that be the job of the deputy clerk? Why are we not being timed?
Unfortunately, our software does not allow that at this present time. I did ask for that as early as this morning to time every delegation and every member of council, and I was told, and I would ask for clarification, that that is not an option that we can do right now.
Deputy clerk, we cannot time every member of council? So then we should have some information telling us that we're being timed on each one of these.
Okay, so I've ruled that your point of privilege is not in order. Let's move on.
Thank you.
You're free to challenge the chair if you like. Let's move on to the vote, Mr. Clerk.
For clarity, members of council, this vote, yes, I stopped the vote. For clarity, this will be on the motion to defer.
Correct. Thank you. That carries. That concludes our business arising from notice of motion. Moving on to bylaws. Where am I? Ward 1. Moved by Councillor Tyler Moore and second by Councillor Crawford. The bylaw number 17-2024 and bylaws number 19-2024 to 25-2024 be read a first, second, third time and passed. Questions or comments on the bylaws? If you're seeing none, please open the vote. Oh, Councillor Bauer?
Collier, I just want to confirm with the deferral, so that means 18-2024 is now removed from that section?
Yes, I'm going by the resolution provided to me yesterday, so you are correct. This is all but 18. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk?
Through the mayor to Councillor Bauer, yes, this resolution will approve all bylaws, save for the changes to the proposed code of conduct.
Thank you.
Further? Hearing seeing none, please open the vote. That is carried. Is there any notice of motion by any member of council? None. Any new business or announcements? Councillor Tyler Moore, let me turn your mic on.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So tomorrow, 24 hours from now, at 7 p.m., Regional Councillor and Deputy Mayor Marilyn Crawford and I will be at the Maclean's Community Centre, 95 McGill Drive, for our next ward meeting. You're all invited. Hopefully see some new faces. Bring a friend, as some of our regulars say. And we have a fabulous PowerPoint presentation. So come on out. I think it's fabulous. So look forward to seeing everyone. Tomorrow night, that's the 26th of March at 7 p.m. at Maclean's Centre. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bauer?
Thank you, Mayor Collier. I would like to draw attention to the public information session for the Daced Parquet consultation, which is this Wednesday, March 27th, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Carruthers Marsh Pavilion. So especially for Ward 3 residents or any resident who'd like to come out, that would be great. And second, just as we enter Holy Week for the celebration of Easter, for anyone who celebrates in our town, Happy Easter. Thank you.
You, Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just want to say this is the last week of being Deputy Mayor, and it has been a whirlwind of education, opportunities, and not a lot of eating. So I want to thank the mayor for giving me the privilege of representing him in many opportunities, and I hope that I have made both him and the town proud over the last 18 months. It has been a kick, really. I do want to say that I had the opportunity to be in the audience of Minister Calandra this week, and we had a lot of discussions, not a lot of promises, but the nice thing was that it was held at 1635 Dundas Street, which is the new shelter in Whitby, which I missed the tour a couple weeks ago, and I want to really congratulate the region on what they've done. It is an outstanding facility. It is, wow, for the little bit that is open, it has so much potential. So I just wanted to make that comment that for all of the publicity this this building received, it is well done, and I'm very proud to be part of a region that took this on. So thank you. That's all.
Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair, and just congratulations to Regional Councillor Crawford for setting the bar too high. I'm just going to say it. In absurd news, just a reminder that April 6th and 7th is WrestleMania weekend, where the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, will finish his story against the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns, and win the championship. That's all, Chair. Thank you very much.
We are such different people. I thank you, Councillor Crawford. I just want to follow up on that, on Regional Councillor Crawford and still Deputy Mayor Crawford. You've done an exceptional job for the last 16 months. And as of April 1st, we'll be turning it over to Regional Councillor Lee. And yes, you have set the bar very high. I've been very proud to have you represent me. I've been pretty clear with most members of the public and most things I spoke to, including the last Board of Trade address that you did very excellently last Thursday on my behalf, that I am turning over a lot of these sort of frontline duties to the Deputy Mayor to go out and get the experience. I'm not running again. We know this. So I want you to have the front time, and I want you to have the time to get out there and prove yourselves, which you've done very well. So it'll be over to Councillor Lee starting next week. And thank you on behalf of myself and council. I want to talk about the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force, and I was very proud to serve in the Royal Canadian Air Force back in the late 80s and early 90s. On April 1st, to commemorate the 100th anniversary, they're going to be illuminating in blue municipal buildings and landmarks across the province. I think we'll all recall during COVID, we were able to do that here. We don't have as much lead time. I'm not sure we'll be able to do that. I'm sure our blue trees will be lit, but we will be trying to take part of that commemoration as well next week to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force. So watch for the blue lights next week. And I don't see anyone else in the speaker list. So the next item is the confirming bylaw, which is Ward 2. Moved by Councillor Henry, second by Regional Councillor Lee. The bylaw number 26-2024 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ajax at its meeting held on March 25th, 2024 be read a first, second, third time and passed. Comments? Not seeing anyone. Please open the vote, Mr. Clerk. That is carried unanimously. And finally, moved by Councillor Bauer, seconded by Regional Councillor Dyes, that the March 25th, 24 meeting of the Council of the Town of Ajax be adjourned. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff, and enjoy the rest of your day.